Have you ever felt like you just didn't fit in during your school years? Like no matter how hard you tried, the system wasn't made for someone like you. Maybe you were told you were slow, distracted, or just not bright enough to succeed. But what if those very struggles were signs of something greater? What if they were the markings of someone chosen, someone set apart for a divine purpose? The truth is, many chosen ones, those marked by God for a unique calling, struggle in structured systems like school. This isn't because they lack intelligence, but because their minds operate in ways the traditional education system doesn't understand. Their gifts, their insights, and their purpose often defy conventional metrics. Let's explore 8 powerful reasons why chosen ones struggled in school, but later thrived in life, rooted in biblical truth and spiritual insight. Reason 1. Chosen ones are visionaries, not conformists. From an early age, chosen individuals often see the world through a different lens. While most students are taught to absorb information and regurgitate it on a test, chosen ones are more interested in meaning, purpose, and vision. This inner drive to think outside the box, to question, to innovate, often clashes with standardized education systems that prioritize memorization over imagination. The Bible gives us countless examples of individuals who didn't fit into the mold. Consider Joseph in Genesis. His dreams set him apart from his brothers and even his parents. His visions were misunderstood, mocked, and even got him sold into slavery. But it was those very dreams that later positioned him to save a nation. Joseph's gift didn't fit the expectations of his youth, but it was crucial for his destiny. School often rewards obedience, not originality. But chosen ones are born to disrupt norms. They don't conform, they transform. Romans 12 verse 2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." That's exactly what chosen ones do. Their minds are not built to merely conform. They are wired to renew, to refresh, to revolutionize. Reason 2. Chosen ones have spiritual sensitivity that distracts from the natural world. Many chosen ones are highly spiritually aware, even from a young age. They sense things others don't. They carry a weight of purpose before they can even articulate it. In school, this spiritual depth can manifest as daydreaming, zoning out, or being too sensitive. But what teachers and peers may label as distraction is often the result of an internal world that is deeply connected to God. Jeremiah 1 verse 5 says, "Before I formed you in the womb I knew you, before you were born I set you apart." God places destiny within His chosen before they are even born. And that destiny often carries a spiritual sensitivity that the natural world doesn't understand. A chosen one might be staring out the window during class, but in their mind, they're solving problems, asking deep questions, and wrestling with truths far beyond the textbook. This disconnect between the spiritual and the educational often results in underperformance in the classroom. But that's not a reflection of a lack of ability. It's a sign of being tuned into a different frequency. One that hears God louder than the lessons being taught. 1 Corinthians 2 verse 14 says, "The person without the Spirit does not accept the things that come from the Spirit of God but considers them foolish." What if your struggle in school was never about failure, but about being connected to something far greater? Reason 3. Chosen ones learn differently. They are deep processors. The school system is built around a one-size-fits-all model. Students are expected to learn the same material in the same way and be tested by the same standards. But chosen ones often process information in unique, often nonlinear ways. They may need more time to absorb a concept because they're not just memorizing, they're internalizing, connecting, and analyzing on a deeper level. This can result in slower performance in the classroom, which gets mislabeled as a lack of intelligence. But Proverbs 18 verse 15 reminds us, "The heart of the discerning acquires knowledge, for the ears of the wise seek it out." Chosen ones are seekers of truth. They ask, why, when others are content with, what? They go beyond the surface because they're wired to understand the heart of the matter. God often hides wisdom in places that require digging. Proverbs 25 verse 2 says, "It is the glory of God to conceal a matter. To search out a matter is the glory of kings." Chosen ones are often the ones searching deeply, dissecting ideas, pondering meanings, and refusing to accept shallow understanding. They're not slower learners, they're deeper thinkers. Reason 4. Chosen ones face opposition early to strengthen their calling. Sometimes, chosen ones don't just struggle with grades or attention. They face mockery, bullying, and rejection. They're misunderstood, left out, or criticized. But what if that opposition wasn't meant to destroy them, but to develop them? Look at David. Before he was king, he was dismissed by his own father when Samuel came to anoint the next king, 1 Samuel 16. He was mocked by his brothers when he brought food to the battlefield. But it was in those early moments of rejection that David learned to strengthen himself in the Lord. Psalm 27 verse 10 says, "Though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me." School can be brutal for those who are different. But rejection is often the refining fire that prepares chosen ones for leadership. Those who are set apart must first walk alone. Jesus himself was despised and rejected by men. Isaiah 53 verse 3, yet he fulfilled the greatest mission in human history. Opposition in childhood and school isn't random, it's spiritual. It's training. The enemy often targets the chosen early because he knows their future. But God uses that adversity to build resilience, humility, and faith. There is something about a chosen person that sets them apart, not just spiritually, but socially. They often speak differently, think differently, and carry themselves with a presence they don't even recognize. But in a setting like school, where conformity is often rewarded and uniqueness is feared or mocked, this can become a heavy burden. Jesus himself was constantly misunderstood. In John 7 verse 5, even his own brothers did not believe in him. He was questioned by religious leaders, mocked by crowds, and rejected in his own hometown. Yet all of this misunderstanding was a necessary part of the process. It was evidence of his anointing, not his failure. Chosen ones in school may be labeled as weird, antisocial, or too intense. Their interests might not line up with what's popular. They may not enjoy the same things their peers do. But this separation is often intentional. God does not create chosen vessels to blend in, He creates them to stand out. Isaiah 55 verse 8 reminds us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord." If the thoughts of God are higher, then so are the thoughts of those He calls. In school, this difference can cause isolation. But later in life, that same difference becomes a gift. What once made them feel like outcasts becomes the very reason they are elevated. Their uniqueness turns into leadership. Their misunderstood nature turns into divine distinction. God never wastes a single trait He places inside someone. Reason 6. Chosen ones don't seek approval from man. One of the key differences between the average student and a chosen one is motivation. Most children strive for good grades, praise from teachers, and approval from peers. But chosen ones often feel disconnected from these rewards. It's not that they're lazy or rebellious, it's that their spirit longs for something higher. Galatians 1 verse 10 says, "Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ." This verse captures the heart of a chosen one. Even if they don't fully realize it, their inner compass isn't set toward the applause of man, it's drawn toward the purpose of God. This disinterest in man's validation can make them appear indifferent or disengaged in school. Teachers might interpret it as disrespect or laziness. Parents may become frustrated. But the truth is, chosen ones simply don't perform well under systems that are rooted in human validation. They need a cause. They need purpose. And when they find it, they shine. Moses is a powerful example. Raised in Pharaoh's house, given access to the best education in Egypt, yet something in him couldn't submit to the system. He saw injustice and walked away from comfort to align with his calling. Hebrews 11:24-26 tells us, "By faith Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He chose to be mistreated, rather than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin." Like Moses, chosen ones don't settle for easy approval, they seek divine assignment. Reason 7. chosen ones struggle in environments that don't nurture their purpose. The traditional classroom wasn't designed for creativity, prophecy, leadership, or spiritual discernment. It was created to produce workers for an industrialized world. But chosen ones weren't made for assembly lines. They were made to break chains. And so, when they're placed in rigid systems with little room for divine gifts to breathe, they feel suffocated. Romans 8 verse 19 says, "For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed." That means the world is groaning, waiting for the chosen to step into their identity. But many of those same chosen individuals spend their youth in systems that never once speak to their calling. Instead of nurturing their gifts, schools often try to correct or suppress them. A young person with a calling to speak truth may be labeled as argumentative. One with prophetic vision may be told they're too imaginative. A natural leader might be called disruptive. But these aren't flaws, they're early signs of destiny. In 1 Samuel 3, God called out to the boy Samuel in the night, but the prophet Eli didn't even realize it was the voice of God speaking to him. That's what it's like for chosen ones in school. They hear the voice of destiny, but no one around them understands. And just like Samuel, it takes time for them to realize the source of the calling. It takes time to grow into it. Reason 8. Chosen ones carry heavy spiritual warfare that affects their performance. Perhaps the most overlooked reason chosen ones struggle in school is the spiritual warfare they endure. From a young age, the enemy tries to derail those God has called. This warfare can manifest as anxiety, depression, learning disorders, confusion, or even behavioral issues. But it's not always psychological, it's spiritual. Ephesians 6 verse 12 reminds us that our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the powers of this dark world and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Chosen children often experience battles that no one sees. They carry burdens that other children don't. They feel deeply, wrestle often, and live with a weight of purpose that makes ordinary life feel difficult. This constant inner struggle can make focusing on schoolwork seem impossible. They may underachieve, not because they don't care, but because they're in a battle that textbooks and tests don't prepare them for. But here's the hope. The same battle that makes school hard is the same battle that forges strength. In 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9, Paul writes, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." God doesn't need chosen ones to be perfect students. He needs them to be surrendered vessels. And in their weakness, His strength shines brightest. So what does this all mean for those who were told they wouldn't amount to much? For those who were left behind, overlooked, or misunderstood in the classroom? It means your struggle was never in vain. It means your setbacks were not signs of failure, but signs of a different journey, one that required you to be molded by God, not by man. School is a man-made system. It measures intellect by numbers, worth by grades, and potential by conformity. But God's system is higher. He measures your heart, your faith, your obedience, and your willingness to follow Him even when the world says you're not enough. And often, God hides His greatest warriors in places the world doesn't look. Look at Gideon. In Judges 6, Gideon was hiding, feeling weak, convinced he was the least in his family. But the angel of the Lord called him a mighty warrior. God saw in him what no one else did. The same is true for chosen ones. The very people who were seen as failures in school are the ones God raises up to lead, to heal, to build, and to bring transformation to the world. Your mind was never broken, it was just built differently. Built to hear from heaven. Built to perceive spiritual things. Built to dream in color when others only see in black and white. Psalm 139 verse 14 declares, "I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." That includes every part of you, your thoughts, your dreams, your questions, your intensity. It was all part of the design. As chosen ones grow older, they begin to see what the classroom couldn't reveal. They find themselves thriving in environments where creativity, innovation, and purpose are needed. They become entrepreneurs, leaders, ministers, artists, visionaries, people who live outside the box because they were never meant to fit inside one. They begin to walk in their calling, and suddenly everything that didn't make sense starts to align. Romans 8 verse 28 reminds us. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. That includes the painful school years. That includes the tears behind closed doors, the frustration of not fitting in, the sting of feeling stupid or less than. All of it was working together for your good, because God had already written a different story for you. So to every chosen one watching this, don't let your past define your worth. Don't let a report card measure your intelligence. Don't let rejection steal your joy. You are not what the school system said you were. You are who God says you are. And He says you are chosen, royal, set apart, and destined to thrive. Isaiah 41 verses 9 to 10 says, I have chosen you and have not rejected you. So do not fear, for I am with you. I will strengthen you and help you. You were chosen for more. And what held you back before will now be the very thing God uses to push you forward. Your story isn't over. In fact, it's just beginning. If this message resonated with you, if you've felt the weight of being misunderstood, if you've carried the burden of being called less than, if school made you doubt your intelligence or worth, know this: God never abandoned you. In fact, He was with you through every silent battle, every confusing moment, every tear shed in secret. You weren't failing, you were being forged. There's a reason you didn't fit in. There's a reason you felt different. There's a reason you asked deeper questions when everyone else was content with surface-level answers. That reason is purpose. Divine, undeniable, and unstoppable purpose. God has never needed the approval of men to release His favor. He has never required a diploma to anoint someone for greatness. Moses had a speech problem. David was a shepherd boy. Jeremiah was too young. Paul was hated. Jesus was crucified. And yet every single one of them walked in purpose far greater than the world could ever imagine. Why? Because God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. If you struggled in school, that struggle was not a curse. It was preparation. It taught you resilience. It drew you closer to God. It kept you humble. It made you seek your worth in Him, not in grades or applause or recognition. And now that you are rising, now that your gifts are awakening, don't ever look back with shame. Look back with gratitude. Because everything you went through brought you here. 1 Peter 2 verse 9 says it best. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of Him who called you out of darkness into His wonderful light. You were chosen, handpicked by the Creator of heaven and earth, not to live an average life, not to follow the crowd, but to lead, to build, to bless, to heal, to inspire, to transform the world through the power of God working in you. If you're still finding your way, still unsure of your purpose, don't lose hope. God is not finished with you. What others called behind, God calls being prepared. What they called failure, God calls foundation. Stay close to Him. Stay faithful in the small things. Keep seeking, keep learning, and keep believing. Because the same God who was with you in the classroom when you felt lost is the same God who will raise you up before kings and nations. Your best days are not behind you, they're just ahead. And the world has yet to see what God will do through someone like you, someone who was overlooked by man but chosen by the Most High. If this message blessed you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone else who needs to hear it. Speak life over the next generation of chosen ones who feel lost in a system that doesn't see them. And remember, your value doesn't come from a test score. It comes from the one who created you with purpose, for such a time as this. You were chosen. And that changes everything. It's time to break the labels that were spoken over you. Every word that made you feel less than, every comment that planted doubt, every test score that said, "You're not smart enough." Those were never God's voice. They were the voice of a system that could never measure your worth because it was never built to understand divine design. You were never meant to be ordinary. And the moment you stopped trying to fit in with what failed to understand you, is the moment you begin to walk in what God has truly called you to. Scripture reminds us in Isaiah 43 verse 1. Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine. You are not forgotten, not abandoned. You are His. And when God places His name upon you, no school system, no childhood struggle, no early failure can take that away. Chosen ones are often late bloomers. Why? Because their roots grow deep before they grow tall. God hides them, molds them, and matures them away from the spotlight so that when they do rise, they rise with strength, humility, and unshakable purpose. Think about Jesus. For 30 years, He lived in near obscurity. No fame. No platform. Just quiet obedience, patience, and growth. But in 3 short years, He turned the world upside down. That's the power of divine timing. And if you're still waiting, still searching, still healing from what happened in those early years, know this: delay is not denial. God is preparing you for something that will not be shaken. And when your moment comes, it won't matter who doubted you in the past. It won't matter what teacher gave up on you, what student laughed at you, or what you believed about yourself back then. Because when God opens a door, no man can shut it. So to the chosen ones watching now, rise up. Your past does not define you. Your mistakes do not disqualify you. And your struggle was not wasted. You were born to disrupt patterns, to challenge systems, to bring light where there is darkness, to speak truth when others stay silent. You were made to be different because your mission is different. Matthew 5 verse 14 says, "You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden." It's time to stop hiding. Stop minimizing yourself. Stop believing the lies you were told in school. You're not slow. You're not a failure. You are light. And light was never meant to be tucked away in a corner. It was made to shine. If you're thriving now, use your story to lift someone else. Be the voice you wish you had when you were younger. Encourage the child who learns differently. Empower the teen who feels out of place. Remind them that being chosen often means walking a lonely road before stepping into a divine one. And if you're still in that season of confusion, take heart. God sees you. He's not finished. In fact, the best chapters of your story haven't even been written yet. Keep going. Keep trusting. Keep showing up. Because chosen ones may struggle at the start, but they finish strong. Always. You are chosen, and the world needs what you carry. Now go out there, and let it shine.